Hey everyone, how we doing today? This is James Sweeney, aka SplitSuit, and welcome back to another video. And as part of the Ask SplitSuit a Question series, a couple of people asked me to review some hands, so today we're going to do exactly that. And today's hand comes from Matthew V, and Matthew prefaces this hand by saying, "Can you break down this hand, specifically discuss flop and turn bet sizing, and thought process behind what the river action should be?" Okay, so in this hand, and by the way, this is a 1-2 home game. There is a limp from an unknown, there's a raise from MP2, and Hero decides to 3-bet. So MP2 in this situation is a 22-9 over 400 hands with a fold versus 3-bet of 86% over 30 samples. And while I don't love that 22-9, obviously those are pretty fishy stats and pretty passive fishy given the huge gap in the VPIP PFR. If he does have a relatively confirmed high fold versus 3-bet, like he just hates giving 3-bets action, then I can totally be on board with making this kind of semi-bluff. The 3-bet is fine. It's probably going to clear out EP1 a large chunk of the time unless you know that he's a huge fish. So overall, I can be definitely on board with this. End up getting cold call from the small blind, who is a 35-8 over 900 hands, cold call of 3-bet of 10% over 50 samples. And while I said I liked the 3-bet before, when I have someone who's pretty fishy right behind me, whether that's the big blind, whether that's the small blind, whatever, usually I'm not going to be in a situation where I want to 3-bet it as much because I don't think I'm going to be able to generate all the preflop folds that I really want. And really, I want a ton of preflop folds when I'm doing these kind of semi-bluff 3-bets. So in a situation like this, maybe I don't love the 3-bet. It depends on how the small blind's been playing this night, but just kind of pay attention to that. If you have fish behind you, usually you want to strengthen your 3-bet ranges as a default. But in this situation, we end up getting cold call by the small blind, end up flopping the pretty much nuts, which is always fun, and the small blind checks, and here decides to bet. So in this situation, flopped a huge hand in a 3-bet pot, and that's always fun, and definitely going to be betting here for value. It's a very low board. It's the kind of board where any, decent overpair, like an 8s, 9s, 10s, jacks, whatever, is going to feel relatively comfortable. Small blind definitely has fishy numbers, which makes me definitely want to stay in a pure value bet mindset. My only gripe here is with the size, and the size isn't bad. I know it's kind of like a typical size, and it's just one of those situations where I think we can make more value here. I think that if a fish is in here with an overpair, he's going to be relatively inelastic. He's going to call pretty much regardless of the size, so long as you don't bet, say, 180. So I think if we were to bet this for something like 40 or 45 or even 50, that he's going to continue with all those overpairs just the same. So because of that, I'd really like to see the bigger bet size here. $50 seems totally fine, and that's something that I'm definitely going to do in a live 1-2 game. So I'd like to see this bet size be a little bit bigger, totally for value, of course. End up getting called. Queen on the turn. He checks. Here decides to bet again. So again, we see Hero coming in for a little bit more of a typical bet size, but again, I think that this could definitely be bigger as well. Now, the queen isn't my favorite card in the world. It certainly does apply pressure to 8s, 9s, 10s, jacks, all those kind of things. But by the same token, I still think that a bad opponent is still going to make plenty enough second best mistakes. And I also, again, think that we could have made more value with a bigger flop c-bet. And again, the bigger flop c-bet also does kind of account for the times you do catch a turn card that maybe pauses action or slows your opponent down. You get more of that immediate value right there. And again, especially when they're going to be inelastic, that's a good thing for us. But in this situation, at least I'm happy the Hero's betting. I just think, again, the bet size could be a little bit larger. In this situation, maybe 90, 95, something in that ballpark. So the small blind decides to call. Deuce on the river, not changing too much. Obviously pairs the board. We're behind boats, but I don't think there's a ton of those. He checks. Hero decides to bet. So I like the Hero's betting. I'm just really not sure why we're choosing this bet size. I think this is definitely on the smaller side. If we look here, we started the river with about 240, 286 in the middle. I really have no problem with shoving. Again, if you think the small blind's still going to be inelastic, he did cold call a 3-bet pre-flop, check call flop, check call turn. Doesn't seem to be the kind of guy who wants to fold very much in this hand. The river doesn't really change too much. It actually may make him feel a little bit more comfortable if he did, say, like have a jacks or whatever. Board pair doesn't really freak him out versus, say, the river being a 3 or an ace or something like that. So in this situation, just bet as big as you think that you can get called. The fishier he is, the more I'm just going to shove here. And again, I'm not really super scared of boats. You know, if we look at the way the hand played out, if he had flopped something like pocket fives, pocket fours, pocket deuces, don't we think he probably would have played it more aggressively somewhere, whether that be in the flop or whether that be in the turn, whatever. And also, if he's bad enough to cold call a 3-bet out of position with pocket fives, pocket fours, or pocket deuces, well, again, I don't have a tremendous amount of respect for that in the first place. So in this situation, it gets a little bit weird because we do end up facing the check shove on the river, and at this point we're getting roughly 4.5 to 1, need to be good at least 18% of the time, and Hero decides to make the big fold. So in this situation, I'm not folding. I just don't think there's any way we can give him that level of respect for only having boats. And yeah, there's 3 combos of pocket queens, and that's all well and good, but by the same token, there are 3 combos of pocket aces, there are 6 combos of pocket kings. He may view your weird, roughly third pot size bet on the river as being weak, and maybe he thinks he can do this. Just ultimately, I can't only give him credit for having hands that beat me, and in this situation, I just don't see myself finding the fold against this kind of opponent. Given the math, I think I'm good here enough of the time for sure to justify making this call, and I think the fold is a little bit on the tight side of the spectrum, to say the least. So Matt, thanks for the great hand, and hopefully this gets you started the next time you find yourself in a similar situation. And if you or anyone else has a hand or poker related question, feel free to leave it in the thread. I'll leave a link for that in the description box. And also please make sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this type of video. So same as always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Otherwise, good luck out there and happy grinding.